Hey, good afternoon. My name is Meredith Lego, and my whole YouTube channel is about Ascension science and the expansion of consciousness. And in this particular video, I'm going to actually talk about a topic to me that was a little bit more triggering. And I'm trying to do the work that I talk about in this channel, which is working on understanding why you're triggered by certain things so that you can work on releasing the root cause of those triggers. And it was on the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm going to kind of share with you a perspective from a collective consciousness that I've been channeling on helping me understand better diversity, equity, inclusion, and then help me understand why I was being triggered by it. So I thought I would share this because it's obviously an interesting hot topic. So, if it's something that will be triggering for you, obviously, then it may not resonate with you to watch this particular video, but it was part of, just something that I had to go through as a healing process as well. So I just thought I'd share it. So first, I thought that I would share by talking about the actual definition of diversity, equity, inclusion. And I pulled this right from Wikipedia, but I thought I would start by reading that in case you have not heard about this particular framework to give you a perspective. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is a conceptual framework that promotes the fair treatment and full participation of people, especially in the workplace, including populations who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination because of their background, identity, disabilities, etc. Diversity describes a wide variety of differences that may exist among people in any community, including race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, sexual identity, disability, neurodiversity, and others. Equity is a practice of promoting fair opportunities via personalized approaches based upon individual needs, thus aiming to level the playing field by taking into account different starting points of the different individuals. So therefore, equity aims to achieve fairness by considering each individual's trajectory and context, and should not be confused with the notion of equality, which aims to treat everyone as equal. So inclusion specifies the desired outcome, namely ensuring that individuals find opportunity and spaces to participate regardless of their differences. So hopefully that provided a rather fast definition of DEI. So I asked this collective consciousness, why am I so triggered by DEI when I wholeheartedly know in my core the concept of unity consciousness? So again, if you've been following my video series, it's obviously been working on the ascension of science with the understanding that we're all really part of a common source field of energy, having individual manifestations. So knowing that literally we're all one field, why would I feel any sort of triggering by this particular program? And I was feeling it very, very much within my body. And so I needed to understand how to sort of release that. So I'm bringing this up in as example. So I know there are kind of many who have diverse points of view around this particular topic. So again, this may be triggering for you, in which case, it may, I would kind of leave it behind, so to speak. But this would be an example of another kind of common societal framework or topic that goes on, and we all have different perspectives or points of view, and we feel triggered maybe by the other perspective or point of view, and that's really a good time to take a look within and understand the root cause of the trigger. So that's essentially what I did. So the answer that I got back is the program or mental model of DEI comes from a place of fear and separation. In reality, it was generated to overcome feelings of victimhood and unworthiness. Beings who believe this feel separate from others, and it comes from a place of fear for situations in life in their unknowingness that the source of the experience is their own internal frequencies vibrating out and being mirrored back. So there was a lot there in that particular statement. But basically what they're implying is that at the root of this particular program was the concept of the feeling that you're trying to create inclusion because there's the belief that there's separation. So that's really what's at the root of it. And so if you're only feeling separate, if you believe that you're not worthy, or if you're feeling that you're a victim. And I've seen it play out in my own family, and I felt it sometimes myself. So, I cannot, as I've kind of gone through my own journey of essentially trying to understand my triggers and whatnot, I've realized where I've felt myself being a victim, and worked on healing that part of myself. So I understand it. But they're also saying that, essentially when you have those particular feelings, because of the fact that we live in a holographic quantum energy field, if you will, when you have those feelings are going to go out. They're going to create a certain vibrational tone and frequency. And essentially you are going to experiencing a mirroring back to yourself of what that particular energetic frequency is, or vibration is, that you're putting out to the universe. It'll be mirrored back to you. Okay. They go on to say that DEI is a multifaceted topic because it does have at the core a mission for unity consciousness, but also comes from a place of control through fear. When it is forced on others, there is an intention or a belief of judgment. That some archetypes must be quote unquote fixed, and that their belief of unity consciousness is void. So in other words, I think what in some cases we've seen play out is that, in some companies or some places, universities or whatever, it's sort of like, you will believe this. And so when it's kind of forced, there's a general belief that the individuals in those situations must be lacking a perspective or a belief system that there's unity consciousness. And so in other words, that's kind of what's going on. So the direction comes from an inner feeling of separation. So that said, there are many on this planet who do not have the basic human rights to move beyond emotional and physical blockages. So it's very difficult to meditate and do the inner work to come to a place of well, let me read it and then kind of interpret it. But it's very difficult to meditate and do the inner work when basic food and shelter are missing. Often, the way to change the situation is to change the inner frequency and the will. So that's what they basically implied. But essentially what they're saying is that it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the first thing that you have to do is make sure that you've got good, stabilized, basic, shelter and safety in check. So it's kind of like your root chakra. It's really hard for you to work on loving and healing and then gain back your personal will and control and then have love in your heart if all you're trying to do is figure out how you're going to survive and get food. So yes, it's, step one is to kind of level that playing field. So essentially everybody has work, that basic necessity covered, because within that, then you can start to allow for the energy healing to go up, sort of up the chakra system, if you will. And then you can clear out those blockages that are kind of going up the chakra system. As with all in life, the golden rule is the best rule. Treat all the way you wish to be treated. Know that when you are triggered, it is important to understand the root source of the trigger and heal it. It could be a deep-seated fear of unworthiness, being cast aside, and not being loved. Those fears and feelings can only be generated from within you. No one can generate your feelings. Only you can. So when a program like DEI is used, they have the potential to shift or slide the focus from looking internally to blaming others for your feelings. Own your feelings and understand your feelings. So in this particular case, what's being said is that Sometimes, and I'm not saying, for every situation, but sometimes the DEI program is being put into place, let's say by groups or cohorts that may feel separate and may feel that they've been sort of a victim of certain, situations in life. I'm not saying that's everywhere, but that could be the case. And so when you do that, when you sort of are in a situation where you're kind of blaming, essentially that's keeping you from looking within to help understand why it is that you're feeling triggered or traumatized. And when you don't do that inner work, you're going to be holding on to that energetic blockage within your own body, possibly for lifetimes. And going back to the last few videos that I've done on how to stop the reincarnational cycle, you won't be able to heal that part of you and essentially release that trapped energy within your ancestral line or within your seed cell. And that's going to inhibit your expansion of consciousness ascension process as sort of like an eternal energy soul, if you will. So when you're kind of using programs like that, you're effectively kind of sidestepping the process of doing that very important inner work, which is very hard because you have to come, to the deep-seated place of your triggers, your traumas, and your fears. So your trigger is caused. So now they're addressing like my question, which was, why am I so triggered by this? So your trigger is caused by being told to follow something which you understand to be painfully obvious and being forced into splitting the physical world into shades of color instead of seeing all as one being, one field, one light. So in other words, what I came to the root of is that I like to use the analogy that the quantum field or the energy field that we all exist in is almost the analogy of being like a bed sheet, if you will. So a bed sheet is one bed sheet, and as individual manifestations of that quantum field of consciousness, it's almost like fingers, poking up through that bed sheet. So we each are, each of us is like an individual finger poking up through the bed sheet. So imagine I have a bed sheet kind of wrapped around my hand, and you can kind of see each individual finger. But the reality is that we're all one bed sheet, and we're forgetting that. Through the process of doing this, we forget that. we can appreciate the individualness of it, but not lose sight of the fact that we're all the one bed sheet. And so when you start to split the world into physical shades of color and whatnot, you have the potential of losing the fact that you're that one bed sheet, that you're that one field, that one light. And another analogy would be like a prism that essentially bends a pure stream of light into a rainbow of colors. Okay, so you see each individual color, but don't forget that it is actually pure light. They go on to say that there is a paradox in the execution of the DEI program. So it promotes unity while simultaneously is executed through force. So force is generated from the male action-oriented energy and egoic place of fear. So again, that male energy is not, it's not an energy that's just in physical gender males. So every human, whether they're female or male, has male energy. So it has to do with the actual energetic force of protons, if you will. So it's more of like the difference between an electrical and a magnetic force. So to have a good balance within any human being, regardless of their physical gender, they're going to have an equal distribution of magnetic and electrical energy. So male energy is more of when we're actioning the will of some of the magnetic thoughts that we pull in from the field. So we have thought, we've pulled that in magnetically from the source field, and then we act upon it into physical manifestation. So that acting is male energy or electrical energy. So it's taking antimatter into matter. So the force, again, So when programs like DEI are essentially forced, as opposed to occur naturally, organically, it's being generated from a male action-oriented energy in an egoic place of fear, because the fear comes from the place that it must not exist today in the general population, so therefore I have to force it. So it's like a paradoxical statement of forcing peace through war. So if unity is not really felt in the hearts of all beings, why are programs needed? Or excuse me, I read that wrong. So if unity is really felt in the hearts of all beings, why are programs needed? So I guess that can implicitly imply that because maybe unity is not being felt within the hearts of all beings right now, that's why there's a general feeling that the programs are needed. And it just means that as a species, as a human species, we have more evolving to do, which really means that we have more healing to do as a species. But the one thing, I think what I took out of this as to why I was personally triggered by it, that the beings were basically guiding me on, is that that essentially when it's sort of forced, it kind of creates a slide of anybody doing that deep inner work that they have to do in order to understand why they feel the way that they do. So and like this is an example of me trying to do the inner work to understand why I was feeling triggered by the whole concept of DEI. And trust me, I've been in situations within my life, because I'm also a female, where I felt that I was, let's say, a victim or whatever, and I had to get past that and move on. So like I said, this could be a very triggering video for you. Maybe it resonates for you, maybe it doesn't. Would love to hear your feedback either way. But I thought I'd share it because it's a real life example of, me trying to do what I'm being taught as well. So with that, if it does resonate with you, give it a thumbs up, and I'll continue to share more of the learnings that I have on my journey as well around Ascension science. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks a lot. Bye.